I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright.
I'm so glad we get to do this for a living. I'm excited. We are
you
so
talking
lucky.
to us or to your family who doesn't fully
No, all of us.
appreciate?
We're just so lucky. Like, we get to just wake up and talk sports. I'm excited. It's a random Tuesday NFL season. We got all these stories. I'm excited for today's show. Legitimately excited.
That trumps what I was going to say. So
throw that out.
Let's just, page one is done. Let's go to page two. Page two is the Patriots, apparently. I love that. Let's start off on the right foot. All right, here we go. We start with the Patriots. My script is now on the floor, who are looking to improve on their 3-2 start. New England sits in a 3-way tie atop the AFC East. And let's spell that out for you, since it's been a while since it's happened. Patriots, 5 games in, are tied with the Jets and the Bills. While expectations were high entering the season, Brady says this team does still have a long way to go.
You know, I think in general we're not a finished product right now. I mean, we're still trying to figure out what we are and what we're good at and what we need to do consistently to score more points. I mean, we've only played 5 games, and there's still a lot of football to play, and hopefully our best football is ahead of us.
So, Nick, I'll start with you. Even though this is probably something that Tom Brady has said for the last couple of years, this is the first year I believe it. I truly believe that this team isn't sure who they are and where they're going. And is it time to start thinking about the Patriots differently 5 weeks in?
I mean, if by differently you mean is it time for people to start joining my side of the boat? Possibly.
Okay.
The question the Patriots have to be asking themselves, fans of the Patriots, people that picked the Patriots to win the Super Bowl when they were enormous Vegas favorites, what are the Patriots great at? And the answer, the only answer, is Tom Brady. And that's not even a thing, right? That's a person, Tom Brady, which we can disregard the concern about what Brady's going to look like after the last 2 weeks, as beat up as he was, as the seasons get colder, as we get into games 13, 14, 15. Right now, the Patriots are great at having Tom Brady. And you might say, well, that means they have a great passing attack. Well, I suppose, but think about how good Tom Brady's been. He and Alex Smith and Kareem Hunt are probably your 3 leading league MVP candidates.
Yes.
CeCe, the Patriots' opposing quarterbacks have been better than Tom Brady, and Tom Brady might be the league MVP. What do I mean?
Wow.
I mean, the Patriots are averaging...
Because Tom's been good now.
Tom's been unbelievable, but the defense has been so bad. The Patriots are averaging 13 yards a catch. Their opponents, 13.5. The Patriots have 79 passing first downs. Their opponents have 80. The Patriots they're giving you rushing, 11 rushing touchdowns. Their opponents, 12. So as good as the offense has been, the defense has been so bad. Every team the Patriots play, the Patriots defense makes them the Patriots, if that makes sense. So what do the Patriots do great? The answer right now is not much other than have Tom Brady.
Well, when Tom answers a question like that, is because even if they were 5-0, they might have more indicators of what they are right now, but they would still be evolving because they would be looking at their tendencies. Now, the alarming thing is they're worst in defense. Now, I can't ever remember a Bill Belichick team being worst in defense. I had to get Dusty to work a little extra harder, maybe in Cleveland.
Dusty.
But, I mean, that right there is an alarming, that's a fact. So in Tom Brady, he realizes, yeah, my numbers are great. We're throwing the ball great. But this is not conducive to winning a Super Bowl. All right? They play in New England. They love home field advantage. No one's taken more advantage of that than them. They have never won a Super Bowl without home field advantage. Global warming is real, but it's not going to be in Foxborough. So you can't have a pass-dominant team in the Northeast and expect that to be able to travel in December and January. And now back to the defense. I mean, where are they comfortable going? I mean, when you're the worst in defense and every time you put the defense out there, that defense turns the other quarterback into Tom Brady, that's an alarming stat. And how do they get beyond that? Because this is going to be an odd year maybe outside of the Chiefs and the Chiefs being undefeated. We know what 12-4 used to always. 12-4 would be guaranteed you're going to get a bye. But this year, we don't know. 11-5, right. 10-6.
You used to have to go at least 12-4 to get a bye.
Yes.
And now this year, 11-5 might do it. And you say 10-6, and I think people are going to say 10-6 can't get a bye. But here's the thing. The Chiefs and Broncos are the two best teams in the AFC. Only one of them is eligible for the bye because they're in the same division.
Right.
No one else in the AFC is better than 3-2, except for those two teams. Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, New England, the Jets, and Buffalo.
Don't leave out the Jets. The Jets have a good shot at
yes,
this.
Well, my point is those 6 teams are 3-2. One of those 6 is going to get a bye. Jacksonville, the Jets, Baltimore. I feel like you can just cross those guys off. Pittsburgh, we're going to talk about them. They got issues. Buffalo just blew a game to Cincinnati. So the bye is still there for New England, even though they don't know who they are.
Let me ask you a question. If we're all confident in the fact that the Patriots are the Patriots because of Tom Brady and we're worried about it, why are we not worried that the Packers are the Packers because of Aaron Rodgers, and that seems to be okay?
We've been saying that for a couple years.
Right. They don't struggle. They're not struggling as much as the Patriots are this year, but if the Packers are going to go to the Super Bowl, they're riding the shoulders of Aaron Rodgers, and we're okay with it, but we're not okay with it on the other side.
I think there's 2 reasons. One is we don't have a historical reason to believe Rodgers' play is going to fall off in December and January. He's in the prime of his career as opposed to being the oldest elite quarterback we've ever seen. But the maybe bigger reason, because I know some people don't buy into the Brady aging stuff. So set that aside. That's a hypothesis I have that we'll see if it's proven out. But the Packers aren't the worst at anything. Like when we say the Packers are just Aaron Rodgers, they are primarily Aaron Rodgers, but their defense is okay. It's not great, but it's okay. If you flip-flopped the Patriots and Packers defenses, we'd have a very different story right now. If the Patriots had an okay defense and the Packers had the worst defense in football, they'd have lost to the Cowboys this past week. Like, they wouldn't be 4-1 where they are.
And the Green Bay story doesn't have the Belichick equation. We know Ted Thompson. We know how Green Bay, how they acquire players, don't participate in free agency for the most part, went out and got one in New England, got Martellus Bennett, added him, one of the few free agents they've added last 5 years. Julius Peppers, they added him a few years ago. He played a few years there, but they don't participate in free agency. But Bill Belichick, even after the Super Bowl, participated in free agency, went out and made big moves, went out and spent big money, and they jumbled some draft picks. So it's the general manager, Bill Belichick, too, that you don't have in the equation in Green Bay. In Green Bay, we don't let them off the hook. We say it's an average team with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers makes them special and gives them a chance to win every game. But methodically, we have seen over the last 15 or more years, Belichick, how they put that team together, how it's constructed, and very seldom have we ever had to worry about the defense. The one thing I don't think people are calculating, and Nick, we talked about it in previous weeks, the accumulation of hits on Tom Brady. I mean, we know the number, but there's a vibe that always goes through the team when the quarterback is hit. So New England is holding their breath because Brady is getting hit too many times, especially in the month of September. Now, what will that effect be as we go throughout the season? Now, Green Bay, we just blame everything on the organization. Aaron Rodgers is going to save them. But no, we say Belichick and Brady are the best ever. So we, I think, hold them to a higher regard based on what they've accomplished and how they do things.
If the Packers are an average team with Aaron Rodgers.
No, without Aaron.
Without Aaron Rodgers. With or without him doesn't matter. What are the Patriots?
Oh, the Patriots.
Are they a bad
the
team?
Patriots right now, if you replace Brady with a league average quarterback, who's the league average? Andy Dalton's the example I use. 16th quarterback in football. Maybe that's too kind to him. Tyrod Taylor. Pick a guy, whoever you think is 16th in the league. The Patriots this year don't have, they have one win maybe. Are they an average? They're a below average team, or are they a bad team? They're a bad team. So the Patriots are a bad team. Right now they're a bad team absent of Brady, but you can't. That is, that's a bad cake absent the flour. It's the most important ingredient. So you saw that cooking? Daughter's birthday this week, and I figured that out. So the Patriots. He pointed to his brain, so he knew where he figured that out. So here is just a few other. We're 5 weeks in, third of the season. Patriots have one comfortable win. We said yesterday about how so many games turn on one or two plays. Yes. The best teams make sure their seasons don't turn on 1 or 2 plays, because they have 7 or 8 wins that aren't turning on 1 or 2 plays because they are dominating those football games. The Kansas City Chiefs, the only game they've really been in jeopardy of losing this year was the game to New England, and they still won it by double digits. Those other games, they have had full control. The Patriots this year have had full control of 1 football game. You add to that the 2 home losses. You add to that the Brady hits, which people are like, oh, well, he's got 10 days off this week. That's fair, but the flip side to that is the most he's been hit this season, really the most he's been hit in 2 years other than Denver games.
Yes.
Happened within a 4-day stretch. The Carolina game, the Tampa game, Sunday to Thursday. What does that do to his body? Those are real concerns when the team is relying on his total excellence just to tread water.
Let's move on to the Packers. They're coming off a thrilling win over the Cowboys on Sunday. Green Bay now 4-1 on the year, looking like a nice lock in the NFC as they approach a game against their division rival Vikings this week. While they look to be in total command, Packers head coach Mike McCarthy says this isn't nearly, speaking of ceilings, the ceiling for this team.
There's a lot of things in that game that we have learned from, but more importantly, apply to moving forward. So hey, we're happy to be where we are, 4-1, but by no means, we need to play better.
So, Nick, are the Packers the best team in the NFC? Straight up.
Straight up.
I thought that was something you'd like. Straight up seemed like a very pointed question.
This is a cute little thing you guys have going.
Straight up.
If they're not playing Atlanta, they are. Atlanta is the team these guys don't match up well against. You told me a story when you were with Philly. Like, you guys would always beat Washington. Washington would beat the Giants.
We always beat the Giants.
I'm sorry. You guys would always beat the Giants. The Giants would always beat Washington, and Washington would always beat you. It was like a triangle.
Yes.
So this is Green Bay has lost 3 straight games to Atlanta. Now, all of those games have been in Atlanta. It's just bad luck, the bad scheduling luck, that the back-to-back regular season games in Atlanta, and obviously Atlanta had the better record than them last season. I think right now they're the best team, but I think the team with the highest ceiling in the NFC is Carolina. And here's why. I think this is who Green Bay is. I don't expect Green Bay's defense to get much better. I think they're just going to be a slightly below average defense. I don't expect their offense to get much better because how would it? Like, the offense has been performing with relatively mediocre skill position players because of Aaron Rodgers. Carolina is sitting there at 4-1 without production from its offense, except for these last 2 weeks. I think Carolina's offense can go to another level more easily than Green Bay's defense can. Now, I'm not discounting Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia is on that next tier, and I think Atlanta also is on that next tier, even though they match up well against Green Bay. I think Green Bay's better than the Falcons against the league, but not better than the Falcons heads up, if that makes sense.
Based on the head-to-head, I have to give the edge to the Falcons because their overall team speed. Nick talked about the 3 games they played in Atlanta. Even if they had played in Lambeau, as long as it's not frigid, December or January, huge advantage to Atlanta with Dan Quinn, how they built the team. Defensively, the team is very, very fast. Offensively, very, very fast. The surface indoors is more suited for that team. So I give it to Atlanta. They're also the defending NFC champion. Carolina is kind of a wild card because they match up well against the Falcons, have played the Falcons well. Green Bay, as long as they have number 12, will be part of the conversation. Their thing is their secondary and their defense, will it hold up? And what if Mike Daniels gets hurt? Because they're 2 different teams with him in the lineup and with him out of the lineup.
That's the big D tackle.
What's the one thing Green Bay has to do to match up against Atlanta? Whether they're playing in Atlanta or at Lambeau.
Get better players.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Okay, right, that's my point. That's why I think Green Bay absolutely could go to the Super Bowl. I think right now you can make a case they're the best team in the NFC, but that doesn't mean that you match up well against every team. People say, oh, with Aaron Rodgers, he can put up 35 on anybody. That's fine. The problem is the last 3 times you've played Atlanta, you've given up an average of 37. They have shown no ability to slow down Atlanta's passing attack. Now, maybe it is because the games have been in climate-controlled, in a dome.
Yes.
Fair enough. So if you were to tell me you guarantee me the playoff game is going to be in Green Bay, well, then we can...
No, but if it is it a different conversation?
Yes, absolutely. If it's a snowy game in Green Bay, sure it is. And Matt Ryan this year has been a different player than last year. He's on pace to have his worst season since his rookie season, actually, even though they're 4-1. Kyle Shanahan seemed to be very important to him. So I just think that is one bad matchup. I'm not nearly as high on Atlanta as other people. I just think it is a really bad matchup for the Packers.
Nick, you and I have talked about it's the year of the rookie running back, right? What about Green Bay? What about the rookie they put in there?
Ooh.
Okay?
So that's interesting.
Now, that could be the difference in this Green Bay team. How could they be different against Atlanta? Go to Atlanta or in Lambeau with a running attack.
So Aaron Jones is a guy people don't know about. That's interesting.
Yes, Aaron Jones is going to change that offense. But you got to give him the attempts because he brings speed to the lineup that they haven't had at running back in a while.
He should call Le'Veon Bell just to ask advice on how to get more attempts.
Well, he's got a rookie contract, so
I just made a joke. If I have to
it
tell the joke, it wasn't a joke.
Like all your jokes
He's
are
still talking
wildly hilarious.
L. Bell like Jenna. She out here trying to get that money.
Look who's here, Eric Mangini, handshake.
How are you? That's my guy.
We set quite a table for Coach today. We made sure we were fired up, spiced up.
He's giving us segment ideas.
He's giving us segment ideas.
Nick's hot seat. Which coach is on the hot seat this week?
Analyzing,
all of it, Coach.
Versatility.
Clearly, we need it. All right, let's just talk some football first. Let's take a look at the Dallas Cowboys, who enter the bye week at 2-3. They've lost 5 of their last 7 games going back to last season, including the last 2 weeks to the Packers and Rams. Nick Wright, do the Cowboys still look like a playoff team to you at this point?
They look like a playoff team, but as I think both of you guys can attest to, there are a lot of teams, I shouldn't say a lot, there are a few teams every year that have the talent, that have the ability, that could be a playoff team, but don't end up getting the requisite wins to actually make the tournament. Like teams that you think, hey, if we were to run this season back, a couple of those bounces we talked about yesterday go our way, and we're 11-5 instead of 9-7, but we're 9-7. We needed those 10 wins.
That's not how life works.
No, right, but so there's 2 things. Like
unless you're playing Madden.
One is hold on. There's do the Cowboys look like a team in disarray? To me, no, they don't. Do the Cowboys look like a team without an identity? To me, no, they don't. Do the Cowboys look like a team that can play with the best teams in football? I think, yes, they do. But can the Cowboys overcome a 2-3 start, 2 home losses, back-to-back blown double-digit leads in what I think is the far more difficult conference in the NFC? I don't know the answer to that. I think it's going to take 10 wins minimum in the NFC to make the playoffs. That means you got to go 8-3 the rest of the way with a brutal following schedule. So they look good enough to be a playoff team, but how big of a hole have they dug themselves is the question.
Now, I look at Dak Prescott, and I'm more sold on Dak now than I was last year, and I think he's made a tremendous amount of progress. And the things I've heard about him, his work ethic, all those things trend towards growth, trend towards him getting better.
And Coach, you're a body of the work type guy. You're one that you're more apt to err on the side, say I need to see a little more.
Yeah, definitely. Because when you look at a guy his rookie season, we saw it with RG3, where a guy can pop off the screen. Everybody just assumes that the trajectory is going to stay going upwards. But knowing people on the staff, knowing people that have dealt with him, his progress, his development, his growth, his work ethic, all those things to me have been outstanding, and I'm much more sold than I was last year. Now, the issue they have is they've given up over 35 points in 3 out of these 5 losses, and I don't know how much they're going to be able to change defensively. I don't know how much they're going to be able to improve defensively over the course of the season, and especially if Sean Lee is in and out of the lineup. He is critical to making that work, not only as a player, but also as the quarterback. He's essentially the quarterback and runs the defense. So that, to me, is a huge concern.
Go ahead.
There's 2 concerns, players. Sean Lee, you bring up a good point. Because also, if we have Sean Lee in at the end of the game, he's the spy on Aaron Rodgers and doesn't let him get up the sideline on the 3rd down conversion. All right? Also, because of lack of experience in the secondary, I'm concerned with Rod Marinelli, what he's going to call. All right? A lot of people are like, well, what is he talking about? I don't think that Dallas knows the ability of their secondary. They were playing 2-man almost the last 4 plays of the drive. Now, you can't play 2-man against a quarterback who runs, and you can't play 2-man with young cornerbacks who let the wide receiver up the sideline. That's how Devontae Adams scores the game-winning touchdown. They're playing 2-man. The coach calls it. The safety gets trapped inside. The guy lets him outside. So I'm with you. I don't know if that defense, I know it's not going to travel well. If you play defense like that at home, it's even worse on the road. And the biggest wild card happens to be what no one is talking about. What about Zeke's case? What if Zeke gets suspended? They won't make the playoffs.
I think that's a big issue, too. Last year was Tony Romo, so they had that issue to deal with. This year, it's Zeke's issue, and it's also now the anthem issue.
And Jerry brought that on him. The Cowboys weren't in the middle of this at all. Like, the owners basically courted that controversy.
And there's dealing with success. So they go into the season, they've got all these expectations. Everybody thinks they're going to be running away with the schedule, and that hasn't been the case. So how are these young players going to deal with adversity? Then you throw in the adversity that Zeke's facing, and now you throw in, and I know you don't like to use the word distraction, but this is a pretty big distraction. And the next game that they play is in San Francisco, where everything started. So let's see how that all unfolds as well.
But if you talk about a team, the difference between this Cowboys team and a playoff Cowboys team, shouldn't the playoff-bound team be the kind of team that could beat the Packers like that, like to beat those good teams, to be able to win those games that are really close? Like, had they beaten the Packers, you say, you know what, this is like a really solid playoff-bound team.
Jenna, but that's why I'm not going to be super reactionary, because they could have beaten the Packers. They did have a lead with a minute left.
I can't play that game. They didn't. Guess what? The Giants give them back 2 of those losses because those could have been wins.
No doubt. But that gets to my original point, which is I think the Cowboys played well enough to beat the Packers. They didn't, but they played well enough.
It means nothing.
Of course it means nothing as far as their record. But when I'm evaluating the team, how good are they, I can say that you went head-to-head with a team we just spent 10 minutes discussing is the best team in the NFC. But now I'm going to do what his coach's absolute favorite thing, which is look at the schedule moving forward.
Oh, perfect.
Because here is the, and I know the teams
I actually
will do
looked at
this.
it as well. It doesn't look that great moving forward for them.
No, so forget the fact they've lost 2 games at home. Let me tell you some of their road games. They got to go to Washington. Okay. They got to go to Atlanta. They got to go to Oakland. They finished the year in Philly. Those are 4 games that I believe Vegas is going to say they're underdogs. Now, you win games as underdogs, that's fine. Well, okay, well, is their home schedule easy? Oh, wait, they have the Chiefs at home.
No.
They, of course, have Philly at home. They have Seattle at home. Their final 4 stretch, if they got to go 3-1 down the stretch of the season, here's what they have to finish the year. At the Giants, at Oakland, home for Seattle, at Philly. Now, the Giants aren't good, but 3 out of 4 on the road to finish your year, you don't like seeing that. Like, this is not a forgiving schedule that they have when you're trying to find a way. Do we all agree it takes 10 wins probably this year?
Yes.
So they got to go 8-3.
Look, if I'm Jason Garrett, I'm more worried about the next game against San Francisco. And not just because it's the next game, but because you're facing a team that's winless. And you're going to have a ton of coverage on it, not just because it's San Francisco, but because you're now the center of this debate. And teaching young players not to underestimate, teaching any players not to underestimate an opponent is hard. And coming off the bye week, going to San Francisco, that's no lock.
Keep in mind a San Francisco team that while winless, they were, and Jenna won't like this, but they have
this close.
They
could be undefeated.
No, I'm not saying that. But
that
Cleveland's getting beat soundly almost every week. San Francisco's lost in overtime. They lost on the final play of a game, essentially to Arizona. Like, San Francisco is a team that you feel like is due for a win at some point.
Right. Let me just say this real quick. The difference between the Giants last year and the Giants this year is that the Giants won all those super close games last year to get them to 11 wins. They are losing those games this year. That is the difference between a good team and a team that's not a playoff-bound team.
And with the Cowboys, you could say the difference is last year when they had a double-digit lead at home, they ran away with it. This year they've blown it 2 weeks in a row. It's totally fair point.
With us now is 2-time Super Bowl champ and Fox NFL analyst analyst David Deal.
It's great to be back. You guys know I'm like a wide receiver. I'm a diva. I didn't have my Tab Cola or my all blue M&Ms in there. I mean, the heck, I got a rider that you guys need to go by here.
I like it. You're probably the more conservative version of the Nick Swisher, which is like not hard to say.
I knew I had to bring my energy after I saw him on the first segment.
Forget it. We had to bring energy as well. It's great to have you back.
It's great to be back.
Thanks so much for being here. Okay, so the Giants currently seem to have, I don't know, let's call them giant problems. We learned that Odell's fractured ankle will sideline him for the year, so he's done for this season. Not to be outdone, newly acquired wide receiver Brandon Marshall also out for the year with season-ending ankle surgery. On Sunday, head coach Ben McAdoo said the team will not make excuses moving forward.
You look in the mirror, you learn a lot about yourself in times like these. So you got to work for yourself. You got to work for your teammates. We're all pros. This is what we get paid to do. We get paid to win, not just compete. So we got to find a way to win.
It's not so easy, or maybe it's easier said than done. But does Ben McAdoo, David Deal, survive this season?
Well, I think he started it off the right way, that you find out a lot about yourself when you're in times like this. You find out a lot about a coach when you're in times like this. I mean, to think of the 3 last games, the fourth quarter losses, the way that they've been able to blow leads, the fact that in this last game, Evan Ingram, who should have been a major target in this game, wasn't targeted but once in the first half, and then had 3 not until late, until the fourth quarter when all the injuries happened. So now you're going to have to find out, how is this coach with these injuries on the offensive side of the ball at that skill position, which should have been the strength of that offense, how is he going to be able to adjust? How is he going to be able to adapt? And more importantly, he needs to show, like Coach Coughlin did in the past, how are you going to keep this football team competitive, going out there to sell out and fight, and keep them together as a team?
So, go ahead, Jen.
No, the first part more than the second. I mean, what is he going to do now? He should have been doing with this offense, what you think he's going to do now 5 weeks ago. So for him to say, well, now it's going to really be on his plate for him to figure out what are you going to do with this offense, what can he do with this offense?
And that's what we're going to find out here. I mean, if anybody was to sit here in August and say after week 5 they'd be 0-5, everybody would have said that you're crazy. But your record exactly states who you are as a football team right now. Right. When you have miscommunication at the defensive back level, when you still have problems at the offensive line picking up stunts by the D-line that have been plaguing you since 15, 16, and now still 17, you're going to get this criticism. You're going to get the heat. I mean, let's face it, right now, the Yankees have been the Febreze over the Giants right now, being in the playoffs, because if not, this could be a lot worse for the Giants than it is right now.
So you mentioned the offensive line.
Yep.
So I know just from talking to guys last night that the Giants have at least inquired with recently retired left tackle Brandon Albert to see if that's a possible fit there. And I think Brandon's probably going to sign with the team this week. Take Brandon out of it. That's just the.
I wouldn't take him in. A guy halfway in, halfway out, talking about retirement, coming back.
Okay.
I don't want any part of that.
Okay, that totally fair. But the point that I'm bringing that up to ask you this. Why did the Giants not realize before the season started that offensive line could be an enormous issue? Why?
Something that you knew.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that everybody, if you look at the running game going back to 16, it showed up. And, I mean, if you really think about the Giants' offense, they haven't scored 30-plus points since 2015. They did it 7 times in 15. That's what got Coach McAdoo his job as a head coach.
Right.
And they haven't been able to do that. I think they were banking on these young tackles, Eric Flowers and Bobby Hart, to grow and develop into who they thought they were as football players, and the continuity amongst that offensive line. Like we said, go back to the draft. Garrett Bowles was the only player that really could have changed in the draft the dynamic of the line to move Flowers from left to the right tackle position. Right. He was taken at 20 by the Broncos. There goes your pick at that. So they had what they had. They picked Evan Ingram, which we were told this is a part of the problem that we're going to solve. We can't take off the end on cover 2. We see Will Tye drop that ball in the playoff game against the Packers. So you think now we're going to spread defenses out. We've got a dynamic tight end that we can put in the slot. We go out and get Shane Smith. We go out and get Red Ellison to help out with the running game. but you still are doing the same things that aren't helping your football and your offense win games. And that's the thing that needs to be adjusted in this. You're going to have to simplify the offense because you don't have an Odell Beckham Jr. who can take a 5-yard slant 60 yards to the house. And you don't have right now at that position people who scare you on the defensive side of the ball. And for an offense, when you have opportunities, you need to scar defenses. And what do I mean like that? You pick up a big gain, a big run, that cut starts to break down. And you've got to attack when you have that. And when you don't use those assets, the defense starts to scar your offense with the way that they're hitting Eli Manning and the tarnish that it is putting on his career and his reputation.
Right. Now, you've seen this a couple times with Coach Coughlin. Now, Coach Coughlin survived.
Yeah.
What were some of the things internally, all right? Now, it never got this bad, where it was 0-5, but there were a couple times they were going to fire Coach Coughlin, regardless of all the success that he had. What were some of the things that he did internally that you would like to see the Giants do now that maybe would prove that this coach is more than just a 2-year head coach or a good offensive coordinator who got a job that was beyond his skill level?
Coaching is making players and men do what they don't want to do, see what they don't want to see, so that they can become the players that they want to become.
Amen.
We continue to hear this. Well, Coach said, it was a tough loss. Coach Coughlin would get on us. I mean, you got in that locker room after a loss like this and you're at 0-5. You're getting reamed. You see the red-faced Coach Coughlin with the hands going? Yeah. And that's what you're getting because you have to be honest. You have to look at the perception of who you are as a football team.
So when things got tough, Coach Coughlin coached harder.
He got tougher because if you can't handle the adversity right now and the character of players that show up, then you're not part of the solution. You're a part of the problem.
Do we have any reason to believe McAdoo has the credibility in that locker room to be able to do that?
And that's what we're going to see moving forward here. I think a lot of that went back and forth when you call out Eli Manning, but you won't say anything about Odell or Eric Flowers or Brandon Marshall. He has to show moving forward that he has control of this locker room and of this football team. And let's face it, they're not going out to play the playoffs right now. We know that dream is over, but you better play competitive football, and that Giants logo on the side of your helmet better mean more than your name.
David, tell us about number 13. What happens to Odell Beckham now? It's going to be an interesting year to see. This was his contract year. There were a lot of expectations on him. What happens
Obviously,
now?
It could have gone either way. If he would have held out before the season, considering the fact that he was only making 1.8. We saw it work with Aaron Donald. We know as a player that you think of players that, hey, you understand the magnitude and that they're franchise-changing players like he is. So you understand if he did hold out. But I think with all of the excess baggage, everything that else went with it, from the boat trip in the Green Bay to all that stuff, it would have been a even more enormous distraction to this football team than just sitting out of OTAs and summer minicamp, which, come on, it's OTAs and minicamp. But on the other hand, as a player, you think to yourself, I'm going to go out and play. I'm going to go out and prove them. I'm going to do it with numbers. But it just goes to show you that one snap can completely change the dynamic, not only of the season, but possibly of your career, because we all know he's a quick twitch, one-on-one athlete that wins those matchups and is dynamic. But when you talk about having surgery last night, that can question what people think about your return as a football player.
All right. I'm going to tell Odell you said all that.
He's coming back. We're coming back strong. We're coming back.
Clean break, right?
David, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
We so happily welcome in Fox NBA analyst, World Series champ,
coming like a
Nick
tornado.
Saying words at this point. Nick, it is so nice for you to be on the show because what people don't understand, it is so much more fun to have you in person than literally any other way. There's no other way to take you than in person.
It is an honor to be here. Like I said, the first time, guys, you guys are crushing, man. I'm so honored to be here on the show.
Yes is the answer to
Being
that.
back in the Big Apple, you know I love this place.
The love on the street, right?
Oh,
second to none.
I want to work out. All right. Unfortunately, we have to talk some baseball.
Let's do it. I feel like you guys have been talking so much football. Let's
break
change it over a little bit. Let's do that.
Let me throw my first takeaway from having watched most of the games so far this season to you. Tell me what you think. I'm not that impressed with all the starting pitching.
It has been different, right?
You expect so much, and I feel like every game within 2 innings, I'm looking at what the relievers and who they are and who's warming up.
I think it started off in the wild card games.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw our own Luis Severino, really struggle right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think that we all saw when he was walking back through the dugout, and it looked like he was literally just crushed. Everybody in the world, I think, was saying, just give that kid another chance.
Right.
And we saw that chance last night. Big win for the boys.
No, go ahead, Nick.
We're going to get, I think we're going to spend a whole segment on the Yankees in a little bit, so I want to focus more on the other series for now. Let's talk about the one series in the AL that's done with.
Right.
Astros.
Yeah.
Like, their offense, is the Astros offense the best unit in the postseason right now?
It's pretty good, man. I mean, it's so hard to really stack up guys in numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, it's all about winning games at this point in time. You know, like man, you get into the playoffs, it's who's getting hot. And the team right now that's hot right now is the Houston Astros right now. Bregman with 2 home runs off of Chris Sale, 1 last night, huge, tying the game up. You know, I mean, bringing in Kimbrel, you know, and the whole thing. I mean, losing that game in Boston last night was something that those guys are going to remember for a little bit. And once those postseason workouts start, man, hey, the Boston Red Sox will be back next year, no doubt.
Good move turning to Justin Verlander.
Yeah, that was crazy, right? I mean, you kind of look at it. I mean, talk about A.J. Hinch really taking a chance right there. I mean, obviously he comes in, gives up the home run to Benintendi. Next thing you know, you're down. You didn't plan on Justin Verlander coming in the game, and all of a sudden you're losing.
Right.
But I think they brought Chris Sale in. They said, hey, we got your Chris Sale. We're going to bring in our Justin Verlander. So I think for them, it ended up working out great. It was the first time, I think, in his baseball career, whether it was minor leagues, whether it was elementary school ball or whatever, that he got a chance to pitch out of the bullpen in the postseason. So for him to go over there and do what he's doing for that team, man, I could not be more proud of that guy, man. He's one of the best and a future Hall of Famer.
Nick, can we talk about Josh Reddick for a second? Because I don't understand. I mean, I get the jubilation. I guess I don't understand the mode.
I had heard about this.
Did you see it? Can we show a little bit of the? I mean, he's very patriotic. Obviously,
Patriotic.
the Speedo. Look at the Speedo. He's got he's wearing the flag. He's into it.
Hey.
He's not worried about the sticky film that's left from the champagne residue. That's something I would be worried about.
Thank God disrespecting the flag's not a hot button issue these days.
That's disrespecting the human body.
You said it. He said it. Cece said it.
Give us an idea. Just what's the feeling like in that?
I think just in general, any chance you get to pop the champagne. I mean, it's such a long season, guys. 162 games in 183 days. So I think for you that once you get into that postseason, every round you win, you need to blow off a little steam. And I think for these guys, I mean, everybody's got their own personality, which I think is great. I'm all about you expressing yourself. Hey, even if you got to put on the mankini and do your thing.
Is that what that was?
Hey, if that's what the Houston Astros need to keep going on, they keep doing it, boys.
Before we turn to the National League, you mentioned 162-game season. Can you, because you've been in these big spots,
right,
can you explain to the audience the different level of intensity that go from, you know, just a regular season game to not just the postseason, but especially this first round, where it's best of 5. It's as tiny of a sample as you can imagine. It's the equivalent of playing about a quarter and a half of pro football for what it is relating to the season.
That's about how long the baseball players could last in this.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
So what's the different, not only intensity level, but nerves, the whole thing? Take us there.
Just everything, guys. I feel like any chance you get the opportunity to play in the postseason, you are blessed, because that's nothing that you can really count on each and every year. I was lucky enough to be with a guy by the name of Derek Jeter my time here in New York, and that man expected to be in the postseason every single year. I think the one thing you can listen to is just the crowd itself. I mean, it can be like the bottom of the third inning, 0-0 tie, no one on base, and 2-2 count. It feels like it's the World Series. So I think that's the one great thing about it. I think we even heard from guys like Cody Bellinger last night who said, hey, this postseason is a little different. I got way too excited, got way too emotional, and I really kind of had to bring myself back into the game and really slow everything down and get back to the things that he knows how. Because if you let your emotions take over, which for myself, I was an extremely emotional player.
Not you.
You think?
Not you.
So I think that to be able to be in that spot, you know, now that I've already been able to do that, looking back, I definitely would have some better advice for the guys moving forward, for sure.
Nick, let's bring it over to the National League for a second. Dodgers and Diamondbacks. You know, watching this Dodgers team, they look like a team that won 103 games.
Yeah.
And for a split second during the season, I got a little nervous about that hiccup they had. And now, I think that was the best thing that happened to them.
That was a little more than a hiccup.
Okay, it was maybe more, but I think they needed that to be able to taste how badly they wanted what they did with Arizona.
Yeah, I'm telling you what, man, I've never seen as bipolar of a team as the Los Angeles Dodgers this year. I mean, these guys were so good for so long, and then all of a sudden, just like, the bubble burst, and all of a sudden they can't even win a game. Couldn't even score there for a little bit. Hey, I have to take it, man. I had the Arizona Diamondbacks beating the Los Angeles Dodgers.
You were close. Said nobody ever.
So I think just the way that they have really approached the postseason. Dave Roberts really got his guys doing well. Yasiel Puig, the wild horse, man, really setting the tempo.
Yeah.
It's so funny because you have all those things that he brings along with his game. And, you see like the birds in Cleveland, you see him missing practice and the whole nine. But when the lights are on the hottest, man, in the playoffs, this man shows up.
Isn't he like a wide receiver?
I mean, he looks like a defensive end.
Yeah, he looks like a defensive end, but isn't that some of the wide receiver diva tendencies that baseball is seeing with Puig?
Hey, I'm telling you, man.
Is he calling you a diva?
I think
I mean, they have certain divas.
Well, you know how it is, man. As a veteran guy in the locker room, you kind of have to keep everything under wraps. You kind of got to keep everybody in line. And when you have guys like Chase Utley, you got guys like Adrian Gonzalez, Clayton Kershaw, guys who have been there for a while and really established their names, it's nice for those guys to kind of grab a hold of somebody and be like, hey, man, this is the way that we expect you to do it. And whether he brings it or not, man, whether baggage he has or not, if this dude keeps hitting 500 in the postseason, no one's going to say a thing.
Yeah, you mentioned a name that people want to know about, and you also put another word earlier, Clayton Kershaw.
Right.
But also earlier you said bipolar.
Right.
What about the regular season compared to the postseason?
It is crazy, man. It's crazy how numbers are so...
Will we see the real?
I think we're seeing it. I think we got to see it in his first start here in the postseason. I think he's been able to get enough rest. I think that he really has gotten a bad rap in the postseason, maybe of like 2 or 3 different pitches, giving up a home run here or a home run there. I mean, the guy's going to win like 40 Cy Young awards, so it's not like we can't say he's not one of the greatest pitchers that we've ever seen, but I feel like everything is under such scrutiny and under such a microscope in the postseason that one bad pitch can kind of set your whole season off.
Do you worry at all that the Dodgers might have a little too much time now to sit around and wait?
That's the one thing I always think of, because I think if you look at it, 5 out of the last 15 World Series champions have been wild card winners. And that's because they continue to play each and every day.
Right, so now you got a little chunk of time off.
So I feel like you have a little bit of time off. Hey, that 100-mile-an-hour fastball might not be as slow as what you saw a week prior, but I'm telling you what, the way the Dodgers are playing right now, they got swag, they got energy, they got confidence. Hey, I'm not betting against those guys right now, no doubt.
All right, it's been about 9 minutes in this segment. I haven't questioned a coaching decision, so we got to fix that. All right, let's talk about Dusty Baker for a minute.
All right.
So last night, if people weren't watching, Max Scherzer is dealing.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a no-hitter going.
Right.
As soon as he gives up one hit, Dusty goes and gets him. Now, he was at 98 pitches. Okay, fair enough. That's one thing. But Anthony Rizzo is going into this game is 3 for 3 with runners in scoring position. 2 of those times they've had first base open. They pitched to him anyway.
Right.
Last night, in a 1-1 game with first base open, they pitched to him again.
Yeah.
He screams coming off the field, respect me, respect me. After the game, he's interviewed, and he's like, I don't think they should have pitched to me. I think it's ridiculous that they pitched to me. What do you make of some of the decisions Dusty Baker's made? Because the Nationals easily could be the team up 2-1 in this series.
Was that the ball that dropped?
Yeah, well, let's be honest. I mean,
that could have been caught.
Let's talk about Rizzo. Respect me. You hit one off the label.
That
Okay, well, I'm just telling you what he
landed in
said.
center
It
field.
literally was a joke that ball even dropped. That should
a knock
have been
is a
out.
knock, and it goes as a line drive in the
I just
book,
wanted
so
to
we'll
make sure
take
we're all on
it.
the same page
But
with
I think the one thing that there was no one more excited in that ballpark than the Chicago Cubs lineup when Max Scherzer came out of the game.
Yeah.
And when Dusty walked out there, you saw it was a conversation. It wasn't like, hey, give me the ball.
Right.
There was a conversation. It seemed like the entire infield was just sitting there listening to like what was going to happen. Hey, and when you're a manager, these are the types of decisions that you have to make. Obviously, a lefty on lefty matchup against Rizzo. Hey, man, if Taylor is shaded one step more to his right, he makes that catch running in, and they might be in extra innings till today. But it just so happens that ball dropped in. Maybe it was a bad shift, this and that. But hey, man, sometimes in baseball you get lucky. Hey, Perez made a great pitch on Rizzo. It kind of jammed him up and in. He said he had enough on it to get over the shortstop.
Barely.
But
Barely.
you know, hey.
And it took like 12 guys to just watch it.
But a knock is a knock. And Chicago Cubs, man, hey, second best record in the big leagues in the second half. These boys know what they're doing in the postseason.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.